Hello fellow homesteaders. Today we're going to make some homemade natural leather cleaner. I've always used mink oil from when I was a kid, and when using my ball glove and tie my ball up in it, taking care of my cowboy boots and my saddles. 100% pure mink oil, which is made from mink animal fats, is getting more and more difficult to find. What you're using now may not be what you used years ago. And finding mink oil that's made in the United States, if that's important to you like it is to me, is also increasingly difficult. We had a rainy day and I had tags that needed clean and I couldn't find any mink oil. And so I decided I was going to use my homesteading, do-it-yourself knowledge from making different types of homemade cleaners and home remedies over the years, and a little bit of online searching to find a way to clean the leather and get it done on the day I wanted to do it, even though I was out of mink oil. At first, I was skeptical about using vinegar on my leather. I was just envisioning white splotches and yellowing. But I was also skeptical when I first made a do-it-yourself natural wood cleaner that called for vinegar. It worked fabulously. If you want to see the results, you can check out that article here on New Life on the Homestead as well. I've not had a problem with either the apple cider vinegar, which you use on dark leather, like my rifle scabbard is, or distilled white vinegar if you're working with lighter leather. Not had a problem at all. But I would suggest you do what I did. There's different grades of leather. It could be more worn or more cracked, what it's been cleaned with previously, and all those types of issues that can go into how well your leather is going to work with the vinegar. I don't foresee any problem. If I were you, do what I did and find a little spot somewhere that's not going to be really visible and do a test patch just to make sure that you're not going to have any problems. There's two different recipes that I found that work well. I have this one mixed up here. It's the apple cider vinegar and coconut oil. And I'm going to mix up an olive oil with the apple cider vinegar. I have tended to decide that I like the coconut oil better for harder leather, like my saddle and various tack. And I like the olive oil better on our couch that I want to take care of and make it last forever, so I have to buy another one. Also because I really like it. But that, that's a personal preference. They both work well. The amounts you'll be using are in the article, so you can check those out. And you might need to add a little bit more of a carrier oil if you need to really shine the leather up and condition it, or you're getting something dirty off of it. You can use rubbing alcohol if you've got a particular stain from mildew or from something else. Now if you have ink, you want to just dab it, not spread the stain. But if you have a spot that's kind of extra dirty and you want to get the debris off, which is a good idea before you start cleaning and conditioning, just take a little bit of rubbing alcohol. Also, I've not had stained leather. You may want to do a test patch. I had a lot of dirt down here on the bottom of my rifle scabbard. You can go ahead and clean it off with the vinegar and let it air dry. I go ahead and dab mine dry a little bit. Not sure if it's necessary or not, but it's worked for me. So I'll let that portion dry for now. You could probably use any type of carrier oil that you want. I don't see why you couldn't use argan oil or almond oil. Those are not what I've seen recommended, but I think they would work equally well. They tend to be a little bit pricier than coconut oil and olive oil, so I stick to these two. You just dip your cloth into a little bit of the cleaner and start wiping away. Now I'm just cleaning it now. I'll condition it. I'm using this like you would a saddle soap. I will condition this after it air dries with just the oil. So you don't need to rub it in circular motion. If it's habit, it doesn't hurt, you sure can. I'm going to do one side in the olive oil and one side in the coconut oil. You can compare the difference. This is a hard leather. It's been out in the weather quite a bit because I carry this rifle scabbard on my saddle and on whatever ATV that I am on. So it gets exposed to the elements, both the sun and the rain. And I like to say I've never left it on an ATV overnight, parked in the shelter house where wind can blow, but that would not be an honest statement. That has happened. Sometimes I thought, oh no, my rifle scabbard and my rifle are outside, and rush back out to get it late in the evening. We live on a 56-acre homestead. All kinds of new trespassing signs. We have redneck alarm system here with the blue heelers, besides some other cameras. So I wasn't worried about my rifle being stolen or misused, but I still do not want to leave them outside. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and let that dry for a second. I don't think this little stain here is probably ever going to come off. I've not ever gotten it off. It brushed against the paint on the Ranger. It may be pretty well permanent. But as you can see from how this looked before to how it looks now, nice, oiled up, clean. I already got the debris off, and I'm just cleaning it now. And yes, the test is once it dries, of course, but hopefully you've seen the before and after pictures that I had here to go cut me this article. On the back, I'm going to go ahead and use the coconut oil and apple cider vinegar. I dab it in and scoop up the coconut foam is how I prefer to do it. Instead of, because it is very liquidy, I'm thinking we'll start cutting back a little bit on the amount of vinegar, because I like the oil to be a little closer to a solid when I'm doing hard leather, especially leather that's been exposed to the elements. And still no luck getting the ATV paint. It just rubs against the ATV in that particular spot repeatedly. So that might be a permanent mark on my scabbard. The coconut oil, and of course you can't touch it right now, but I don't know if you can see the difference. The coconut oil tends to dry a lot more quickly and has much less of a tacky feel. You can see the olive oil, how shimmery and shiny it is. It is still wet and tacky. On the lighter oil, or the lighter leather, I use less, and it seems to soak in but not leave that film as much as it does on this more dense leather. But I hate to touch it while it's wet and get fingerprints on it, but hopefully you might be able to see from my finger going down it just how slick that it is. This is the olive oil side. It'll leave it looking great, but it takes a lot longer to dry, which means any debris that might be flowing in the air from dog hair to just dust is going to stick to it. And this side, with the coconut oil, I have one little spot here that's still wet. Maybe a couple tiny traces that are not quite as wet. But to the touch, it dries that quickly, which I like. And I will go ahead, I'm going to prop this up and let it completely air dry. It's going to take longer on the olive oil side, and I still have not gotten this bottom portion here where I had used rubbing alcohol on it. It's dry enough now that I can go ahead and clean it. I'm going to let it air dry probably for a good hour, because the olive oil, I'd say in a half an hour at the most it should be dry completely, but I don't want to do any smearing. I'm going to go ahead and let it dry for about a good hour. Then I would take just the coconut oil and use it like you would a mink oil. Coconut oil changes to the environment very quickly. It can go from a solid to a liquid and back again on the course of 15 minutes depending on where you put it. Right now it's more of a cream. It's not a liquid, it's not a solid. I would like it to be a little bit harder than this, closer to a mink oil consistency when I rub it on in circles to condition it. So what I'll probably do is take my coconut oil and put it in the refrigerator for literally 2 minutes to get it to a bit harder state. And then I can rub it on with a different clean cloth and go ahead and go in circles and condition the leather. And then it will be all nice and shiny and looking great. Will it be 100% weatherproof? No, but it will be conditioned and soft and not going to crack and look really nice, and hopefully prevent any further stains from getting worse on it from being inside and outside so much. And then I can just repeat the process again. It only takes a couple minutes to do the wiping on and off. I don't like the saddle soap, the residue that leaves. This does not leave a residue on there. Like I said, the olive oil is shimmery and it takes longer to dry. And I wouldn't say it leaves a residue or greasiness, but it just leaves enough of a film that I prefer the coconut oil side. As you can see, if I can pull this back here, when it dried, I have a little bit of white residue here. I must have used it, went over that a little bit too much. With too much of the coconut oil, that's an easy fix. You watch while it dries. You can just go ahead and wipe those back off, smooth them out. Same thing can happen with mink oil or especially saddle soap. And I'll just smooth that back out. It was a crease and I was going under it and I hit it too heavy. Probably right when I took my rag out of the solution when it was very full of the coconut oil. And if you happen to have any residue that you don't like, you can just wipe it down with a dry cloth, wipe it off, rub it in, whatever seems most appropriate, depending on if it's white leavings like that was, or still some slickness on the front. But you want to let it dry thoroughly before you touch it, or you apply any straight oil to condition it. And then you've naturally, very cheaply, cleaned your leather.